actually comparing scores head-to-head for matchups, way easier. This makes it so much easier. So, for example, South Korea versus Kazakhstan. I got South Korea in there, Kazakhstan right here. Okay. They average 3.3 mil here, or almost 3.4 mil. They average 1.8 mil. Yeah, basically 2.3 mil, basically 1.7 or 1.6 mil. Yeah, you know, it's not looking so good for Kazakhstan on these. It's really not looking good for Kazakhstan on any of these picks. Like, not a single pick is looking good for this country. Even the low-end variants for South Korea is, like, way better than whatever Kazakhstan can put up on their best run. Okay, yeah, no, that's going to be a 5-0. I just put 5-0 to South Korea. It's usually pretty correct. Okay, here. I'll make this. Anyone with a link can view and put this in chat. Edit, exclamation point, sheet. There you go. So anyone can view this now. And if you want to make your own version, you can just click this make a copy right here, and it'll automatically do the same things for you that it's doing for me. Okay, so anyway, South Korea 5-0. Next matchup is China-Japan, which I think is going to be really close. That's actually going to be a pretty good matchup. Before we do that, though, before we go further into these, I want to kind of look through the qualifiers and just see some of the really interesting things that happen in qualifying. Get rid of this RM, which is minimal. Keep that view. Okay, so obviously it was really interesting to see Argentina and Kazakhstan fall. Based on what I thought, how I thought things were going to go, South Korea first is pretty awesome. Poland beating the US is also pretty cool. And actually, Poland had a higher average score than South Korea. They had the highest average score qualifier. But percent max sum was ever so slightly in South Korea's favor. I think largely because Poland was pretty strong on the DTs, right? Number 1 on DT2, number 6 on the DT1, and number 2 on DT3. Obviously, South Korea is still strong at those, but DT has a higher multiplier, so you're just going to get after it. Both teams were really, really good. Almost evenly matched, by the way, on Hard Rock 1, Hard Rock 2 for both teams. And they were pretty evenly matched on DT also. There's Poland, South Korea. There's Poland, South Korea. And there's Poland, and there's South Korea, right? But that's also still, you know, a less than 300,000 score difference in 4v4, which is really small. And then, of course, you have Poland, South Korea, 150,000 score apart. And South Korea, Poland, less than 50,000 score apart. So South Korea effectively just dominated the no-mods, and that's why their average score in qualifiers was lower. But you can see 300,000 score difference there. That's the highest we've seen so far, and that was on DT1. So this is actually a higher score difference considering, you know, mod multipliers. South Korea, Poland there. South Korea, where's Poland? Where's Poland? Obviously not a Nomad 2-2. But then number 1 on Nomad 1, and where the hell is Poland? There's Poland. Let's find it. So kind of interesting that they're actually lower average score. The RO32 pool, similar to the Quals pool, like overall, not the individual picks, no, but overall, yeah. Obviously, Germany seeding number 6, I think, is pretty surprising to a lot of people. Russia and Philippines both seeding higher than them in 4-5 is really cool to see. Australia seeding 7th. So essentially getting bumped down a tier by Russia, Philippines moving up to 4-5. And then Canada, of course, getting bumped out of top 8 by UK. Really by themselves, because 2 of their best players were at TwitchCon, but, you know, I like that sometimes. Again, interestingly enough, Indonesia actually had a higher average score than the UK, which just means that Indonesia did better on maps that have higher mod multipliers most of the time. And if I go look at the top scores for Indonesia, I actually find them at the top of both Nomad 3, Nomad 4, which is really cool, and Nomad 1. They're very good at Nomad. That's kind of interesting. And then Hard Rock 1, that's their overall. Hidden 2, Hard Rock 2. They're actually... Wait, that's so weird then. So why is Indonesia higher average score despite doing really well on Nomad? Like, specifically, their 3 worst scores overall were on DT. Like, 0.791 here, 0.761 here, 0.656 here. Does it work the opposite way that I'm thinking? Does doing better on... If you're getting... That's actually really weird. Okay. And then UK, the United Kingdom. The United Kingdom was worse than Indonesia on 2 of the 3 DTs. Slightly higher on DT3. Their worst... Wait, this is so funny. Okay, wait. Okay, so that's Nomad 4. Their best placement was Hidden 2, they were number 1. And Hidden 1, they were number 2. So I think some of their percent max is probably inflated from that a little bit because they had really high scores on those. And yeah, then their 3rd highest on the overall row count is at number 8. So after they got 1st and 2nd on both Hiddens, the next best they did on any map is 8th place. So I think what happened is UK's Hidden 1, Hidden 2 are inflating their percent max sum a bit, and they have lower scores on some of the other maps, but were carried in the quals pool by those hidden scores up to number 8. So just a kind of interesting way that qualifiers works, in that, you know, doing really, really well on that 1 or 2 maps help them get a higher placement. And then here we have Indonesia 912, actually up from where I placed them. They were 912 last year in terms of the overall placement, so not super surprising to see them there. And one of the big things that we were talking about in the Full Circle podcast when we were doing the initial, predictions, was predicting this area in particular is basically impossible. Like, I don't think any of us expected to get everything in, like, even in here correct. And effectively, out of the top 16, we were kind of like, hey, log off now. Hey, man.
Log_off_ now rated my stream with 87 views.
What's up, guys? Spreadsheets. It's spreadsheet time. It's OWC time. I'm doing my pick'ems. Which also means looking at the qualifiers and how we did on the Full Circle podcast with predicting stuff and all that kind of good stuff. This is for OWC. Hey, 3D. Pick'ems? Pick me. Oh, no. I saw already you had a good stream, so hope you enjoyed the rest of the hydrate. I don't have any water. Let me go get some water. I hope you had a good rest of your stream. Hope there were some other cool maps there. Hey, let's go. Thanks for the sub. For a month. Very nice. Yo, this guy's got a real setup. Yeah, I have a real microphone. The OWC predictions every year are always really fun, yeah. Even when I wasn't doing them before 2021, I looked forward to them a lot. They're always really entertaining. You know, obviously half the entertainment is clowning on people on Twitter afterwards. I think the Twitter clowning is going a little far this year, like, between... If you know, you know. You know what I'm talking about. But yeah, I think the Twitter clowning is going hard this year. That's for sure. But yeah, it's always fun. It's like half fun in doing it. I was hoping to get clowned a little more because there's a lot of heat directed at one of us right now. It's not me. Yeah. I feel like that. But yeah, one of the things that we were saying on Full Circle is that top 3 was effectively a lock, and I don't think anyone would question you putting these 3 teams in any order. But then, like, 4 through 16 is incredibly volatile and really hard to predict. And then, like, 13, even 13 to 32 is also really hard. Like, the thinking was that a lot of these teams could move up or down depending on the performance of these teams, and a lot of these teams could move up or down depending on the performance of these teams, and vice versa, right? Like, there's a lot of really, really good teams this year, and it makes things incredibly volatile because the competition is high. And one of the biggest things about those tournaments is you play on one day. You get one try. 2 tries in OWC qualifiers. I still don't know why they do it that way. But you effectively get one try, right? You get one day to play. And if you're playing poorly on that day, it's gonna fucking suck. Like, you're not gonna have a good time. But if you're playing really well on that day, you look amazing, and everybody's sucking your dick, right? So that's just kind of how the cookie crumbles with OSU tournaments. Is Drunk to Your Keyboard good? I'm still trying to get adjusted to Rapid Trigger, but the keyboard itself is really nice. So I'll have a better answer to that question later. You know. But I think Rapid Trigger is cool. I'm definitely way better at speed and burst than I used to be, just because Rapid Trigger activated. What is going on? I ask myself the same thing every day. So yeah, anyway, what I was saying was Indonesia, number 9, not all that surprising. This is not in any order. I think if I had to pick a strongest 13-16 team before qualifiers, it would have been Indonesia. And of course, actually, wait, what? Wait. It's okay. After that, Chile number 10. China's actually down at 16, and unfortunately, yeah, they're the weakest team. Canada number 11, obvious low seed because of TwitchCon being a way more massive nerf than I think anyone thought it would be for their players. Romania number 12, and then Hong Kong 13, Italy 14, France 15, and then China 16. So the entire top 16 in some order. I got the top 16 in my placements in top 16 qualifiers. Top 16 quals was my exact top 16 here. I was kind of cooking, no? Like, I actually got a lot of this right. That's crazy. People were flaming me on the stream for putting Japan 17-24, but I was like, nah, you know what? I'm sticking with Japan 17-24. And then 17-24 is really interesting. So Brazil is in there. New Zealand is in there, which is really interesting. I didn't think they would do that well, but New Zealand's team this year is really, really good. I want to take a look at we'll take a look at some of the scores that New Zealand set later, but this is a really good placement for New Zealand. I don't know if they've ever placed this high in qualifiers. Did you expect USA not seed 1? Yeah, pretty much. Like, I don't think they're winning this year. So if I don't think they're winning, I don't expect them to seed 1. I expect the winning team to seed 1 pretty much every time. Singapore's in here. Thailand is not in here. Thailand is number 30. I'm not sure yet whether that's a big underperformance or they're just not that good. But we'll see in losers round 1. They're definitely not winning their round of 32 matchup. They're against the USA. They're going to get smacked. But we'll see how that goes for losers round 1 for Thailand. I'm not sure if it's underperformance or if they're unfortunately not that good this year. Sweden's in there. Taiwan is not in there. Taiwan is in 25 through 32. And Ukraine is barely in there. The ones that I got wrong that are in here instead are Finland, who I had in 25-32, New Zealand, where I actually had Thailand, Taiwan. Yeah, it was Finland and New Zealand that I had wrong, swapped up. And then, of course, Denmark and Belgium did not qualify, and Argentina and Kazakhstan did. So let's take a look at some of the other stuff that's going on now. So, yeah, generally pretty good predictions, like mostly accurate. Some swaps within these two tiers and some swaps within these tiers, especially with the big underperformance from Canada. I don't think anyone was really expecting TwitchCon to matter that much, but eesh, pretty bad. Yeah, I think Denmark not qualifying was really shocking. I think a lot of people probably put Argentina over Belgium, and most people who are in first probably just got wrong Canada top 8 and Denmark for Kazakhstan in the qualifiers. This is 500k average score on all maps, by the way. Like, very competitive qualifiers this year. Your whole team effectively had to average 500k on every map for you to qualify, which is insane. Like, very, very big score overall for that to happen. If you want to take a look at the overall qualifier results, you can take a look at the sheet right here. That is the full qualifier results for OWC this year, as well as extra statistics that you see, like the performance scores, for example. Vaxe number 9, and actually Vaxe outdoing Rectigon. Boshiman number 16 is really interesting. He only played 5 maps for the USA, but he averaged 800k and did really well on them. And part of what is taken into account with performance scores is the ability of the player to perform very well on maps that other players don't do particularly well, right? Because I wrote the score system that Shadooz uses for this originally. He uses a modified version, and he changed a lot of things about it, but the core aspects of it are still the same. That if you do really, really well on a map that has a really low median score, your match cost for that map is way boosted up because you're doing far better than everybody else. And I think that's probably a lot of what contributed to Boshiman doing so well here, despite like 780k average versus 850k average. It's not a huge difference. It's 60k, but it's not a huge difference. And 18 out of 22, 9 out of 11 versus 5 out of 22, 2 out of 11. Philippines with Enri and Hyok in top 8 is really, really cool. And Enri, Hyok, and Nathan Ram in top 15 is really good. Vaxe, Rectigon, Boshi in top 16, but none of them in top 8 is also really interesting. Kriller, the best German player by a country mile. Doing pretty well for Germany there. Average 850k versus average 700k with the exact same amount of maps played as White Cat. Put some respect on Kriller. That guy's the true carry for Team Germany this year. And then, of course, you have worst HR player and Karcher as the dynamic duo for Korea. I think a lot of really expected stuff here. Intercamping, MCY4, Kolibed, all standout players as well. Milk Tea, big standout player for China. I mean, there's not a lot that's unexpected here, but Dio, standout player for Romania, obviously. Kamenchik on the bottom qualifying team as the 20th best player overall is fucking wild, though. 22 out of 22 maps played, 650k average. And his team is still 32nd. Like, that guy's the only good player on his team. like that tells you he is the only good player on Team Kazakhstan. Where's the next? Let's see where the next Kazakhstan player is. Tell me if I missed them. I'm looking, but tell me if I missed them. Okay. Where are they? No. Oh, there we go. 184. 184 is the next best player on Kazakhstan. Like, that's actually fucking LeBron. Like, this guy's actually just LeBron. He's the GOAT for Kazakhstan. He's actually the fucking GOAT. This guy's so good compared to everybody else on his team. No help. Not no help. That's kind of toxic, but you know what I mean. Like, this is a carry beyond words for Kamenchik. He's so ridiculously good. Yeah, he 100% carried his team to qualifying in this OWC. So big shouts to Kamenchik. That guy's really good. Stoof is number 38, and I think that's the top Canada player. Yeah, Stoof, number 28, the top Canada player. 720k average with 16 maps played, 9 of them counting. Really good performance from Stoof. And then the next Canada player, let's actually see. Let's see the next Canada player. Is Cut Paper. And then Ryuke. People talk about Zudinator, Xylus, Stoof, Ryuke as their players. Actually, Cut Paper also exists. This guy's really good. This guy's very, very good. That said, still only 700k average and 6 out of 11 maps counting, 11 out of 22 played. I think, obviously, Canada's going to get much better when they have Zudinator and Xylus able to play at full strength again next week. Some map pool stuff. 1, 2, 3, 4 maps with unique full SSs. 1x100 from Lisperia on Nomad 1, unlucky. 1x100 from Malashevsky on Nomad 4, unlucky. That looks like a 2 or 3x, so not quite there. Of course, everyone saw 14 double S's on DT1. Yes, 14. Oh, sorry. 9 double S's on DT1. Oh, player leaderboard's full. Here we go. Yeah, sorry. 14 double S's on DT1. Very normal. There were 4 double S's in total throughout the entire rest of the qualifiers. 1 on Hidden 2, 2 on Nomad 3, and 1 on Nomad 2 from Macaulay Bed. Very normal stuff. Not a huge difference going on here. Average player score in qualifiers, I think, is pretty expected. The hidden pool was very hard, right? That's also one of the reasons why the UK's qualifying placement was so high, because they were number 1 and number 2 on Hidden 2 and Hidden 1 respectively, and those were the 2 hardest maps in the pool, right? Those are the 2 lowest average score maps, so placing first on both of those is going to give you more points on those maps in comparison to how many points most other teams are earning on them. So it pays really well to do extremely well on a mod category that everybody else sucks at. Everything else is pretty average here, like 500k average-ish on these, mid 500 average on Hard Rock, which lines up with the mod multiplier. DT1 was way too easy for the pool. That's the only real big outlier I see here, and DT3 was hard, right? With a 1.2x multiplier, you're expecting around a 600k average on the DTs compared to the Nomads, right? Because if the Nomad average is 500k, okay, 500k times 1.2 is 600k. So you're expecting a 600k average here, and for this to be 475k means it's actually quite difficult. What's up, Tuco? Easy Champ, my goat. What? Where's Easy Champ? Was he their top performer on the Hiddens? I haven't gotten to looking at their scores yet. Yeah, Nomad 2 was basically just death stream practice. Is Spare in this OWC? No, he is not. Spare is not playing. Yeah, White Cat double S-ing both times is very funny. On DT1. Double S both runs. This is really funny. Triller also double S'd on one of their runs on run 2. So 2 double S's for Germany when we get there. Okay. So I already looked at Kazakhstan versus South Korea, or vice versa, actually. South Korea versus Kazakhstan. Just to reiterate, South Korea is absolutely smashing this team on basically every map. And I want to take a look at something real quick. Ooh, 1 not top score. 2 non-top scores. 3, 4. So out of 22 maps played, Kamenshik did not top score 4 times. He top scored 18 of 22 maps for his team. And of the runs that counted, he did not top score 1, 2, 3. Wow, the runs that counted are the runs where he actually did not top score. The rest of his team got better. That's really interesting. 8 out of 11 maps that counted, he did not top score, but or 8 out of 11 maps that counted, he did top score, but 18 of 22, he top scored overall, which is crazy, just ridiculous. No plasma though? Yeah, I mean, you only need so much skill cap on mechanics on a roster, right? And after that, it's more important to have a more well-rounded overall team. This was also the kind of thought that went into the USA OWC roster. Obviously, they're getting a lot more flack for it, I think, because the players that they added are not... a couple of reasons for the extra flack. A, the expectation every year is for USA to win, and anything less than that, anything less than a convincing win from the roster release video is below expectations for USA. The expectations for that team are ridiculously high. Gonna head out. Have a good night. Have a good night, music. Good luck with your spreadsheet. Thanks. But yeah, the expectations for that team are really, really high. Like, anything less than a win from roster reveal is considered not doing very well for Team USA, which means tons of extra added flack for any kind of roster release that might be even the slightest bit questionable. B, DeCayton was a new player on their team last year and did very, very well in OWC. So a lot of people were expecting him to return and wanted to see him play again. And C, they added back someone who's already been on the team for a long time in Fiery Rage, who I think is wrongfully taking a lot of flack for this. I don't think you blame Fiery Rage if you don't like the roster. You blame their team captain instead. Not Fiery Rage's fault that Taquito picked him to go on the roster, right? That's not how that works. Yes, he tried out, but he didn't make the roster. So, yeah, lots of extra added flack for Team USA. I've already stated my own opinion on the Full Circle podcast. I think they probably could have done with DeCayton over one of their 2-speed players, probably Woodchi in this case. I really like Woodchi. He's a very good player. I've met him IRL. But I do think the team is over-spec'd for speed, not necessarily for gimmicks, so I think it's even weirder that Fiery Rage is getting most of the flack in this case. Like, why are you pointing fingers here, guys? It just seems like more fiery hate rather than actual, analysis. Not that I expect much of that from Twitter, but, funny. But that said, I don't even think their roster is bad. Like, we'll look at their scores in a second. Actually, let's just take a look at the USA matchup to look at some of their scores and how they did in qualifiers more deeply. USA Thailand. Since we're on the topic, may as well. Iowa. So let's see here. Who's playing these maps, right? You have Woodchi dropping 850k on the Nomad 2. He didn't have a great run on the Nomad 1, sure. I think they should have had somebody else to play Nomad 1 besides him, right? Like, core of this roster is supposed to be these 4, and Kama just didn't have a good run when everybody else did, right? So, how the cookie crumbles sometimes. And then, of course, their core roster does really well on something like Nomad 3. Even their run with Fiery on was more so brought down by the fact that none of them really had a good run. Can't blame Fiery for that. core roster run, nothing would have changed with any roster changes there. Boshi Man Fiery. Right? Boshi Man Fiery are both on this one. They're both on this one. They're both on this one. And they're both on this one. So USA really wanted them for hidden. And it worked very well. They were number 3, number 5, number 3, and number 4 across all 4 of their hidden runs. Hard Rock. Definitely they had a rough time here, right? I have not seen Window Life play a map until this Hard Rock 1. He had a good run. 900k. Good run. Would Cheese run on this? Not so much. But this was a good roster for their Hard Rock 1. And then they had, you know, a pretty bad set of runs on the Hard Rock 2, honestly speaking, right? 21-23 is not where you want to see Team USA placing on any map in qualifiers. That's just not the expectation for that team. They are expected to do way better pretty much every time. So, one player doesn't change this, unfortunately, right? Like, even if you remove the worst score from your first run and you put in somebody else, right, you only get so much more score because variance happens. XA goes from 900k to 500k in a run, right? Like, it's just variance. So I don't even think a roster change matters all that much here. I think they just had bad runs both times, and I don't think roster changes would have really impacted much. Because, well, this one was three players out of the core and Fiery Rage, who, you know, yeah, maybe you have Decaton instead of Fiery for this one map so far, and it makes a difference, but that's one map. And maybe you have Decaton instead of either Fiery or Boshi on this one map, and it makes a difference. But if you're only going up to 3 mil, well, let's see where 3 mil puts you on the Hard Rock 2, right? Let's see. Where does 3 mil put you? Actually, okay. It brings you up to about number 8 or 9. That's much better than their current placement. But their current placement is number 16 on the map. So it's honestly not a huge amount, right? You're going up by less than 0.1. And less than 0.1 doesn't make a difference in here. It doesn't change where they qualify. And then, of course, on DT, like, Decaton's not really a DT player. He's not going in for these, right? That's why you have Woodchi Window Life on the team, because you want them to be able to do well on the speed picks. And I don't think it would have mattered all that much, even if they had swapped them out. And actually, the fact that Woodchi Window Life needed to be in for these is pretty apparent, right? If these two are getting 788k, 720k, like generally mid 700k average, then that means the other players on the roster aren't comfortable getting that kind of score on speed. So I think it actually makes more sense to keep them than anything, looking at the qualifiers results. Obviously, hindsight is 2020, right? It's much easier to say, oh yeah, the roster looks good when they are, you know, when I'm looking at the qualifier results beforehand. I do think that they could have still had Decaton over either Woodchi or Window Life. Like, I think either one would have been fine, because Decaton's a really good Hard Rock player as well. So even if you lose the Hard Rock, like the Hard Rock variants that either of those two players can offer you, Decaton's going to fill that and more on the Hard Rocks. And you should be able to get like Kama, Taquito, and +1 to be a 5-man speed roster for this team. Nice to see you streaming again. Thank you. Yeah, is this doc public? Actually, yeah, I have ! sheet with this exact one if you want to look at the comparisons along with me as I do it. If you want to make your own copy of this and look at the comparisons by yourself, you can click File and then make a copy, and it'll... Why do you think Decaton is in over Fiery? I don't think Decaton is in over Fiery. I don't think Fiery is in over Decaton. I don't think that's how that works. I don't know. Rewind the VOD like 5 minutes. That's what I've been talking about. That's what I've been talking about for like the past 5 or 10 minutes. Rewind the VOD. I'm not going to give a TLDR. It's more complicated than that. Yeah, like I see why I see why Takedo went with Woodchi. I don't necessarily think that this roster was the wrong decision either. I think I probably would have chosen differently. And I think it's questionable, but I think any roster this year would have been somewhat questionable. I think the decision they made was unfortunately the most inflammatory one for OSU Twitter. I don't think they give a shit about that, as they shouldn't, because OSU Twitter opinions are terrible, as always. But, like, I don't think the roster choice was necessarily bad. I think it was going to be a tough roster to choose regardless, because the other teams have gotten better, and there's always pressure on the USA to win. Like, anything but a win for this team is failure. That's how it is for Team USA every year. Well, yeah, obviously losing Utami and Fancy Lad hurts a lot. Fancy Lad is one of the all-rounders, and Utami was the best player on the team last year. So of course they're going to do. Of course, it's going to be harder for them this year, right? Makes it way more difficult. Okay, let's look at the Thailand scores real quick. Unfortunately for Thailand, they are gapped by the USA on literally every map. Especially on Tech and Gimmick, it is especially apparent. Even on the Hidden Pool, where Thailand is doing okay, they are still just getting absolutely crushed. Hard Rock is not too much different, right? Like, these are not close scores in general, except on Hard Rock 2, actually. Hard Rock 2 is, like, kind of close. The DTs are... Oh, my God! The DTs are also definitely not close. So I'm just giving this to USA 5-0. I think also not qualifying as first is going to make them hungrier for an easy win in round of 32. So, yeah. Like in previous years, they've qualified as first seed, and it's 1 versus 32, and they can show up and not have to try as much, right? Like last year, I don't think you give Israel a point if you think USA is taking it seriously, but they took 2 because USA showed up with not their full team and some other things. So, like, they got a couple points, right? But I think this year is going to be different in that regard because they're no longer first seed. I think they're going to be tryharding from the start, which is good. I would like to see that. Are you doing every single team or just a couple? I'm going to do every team. Do every match. Okay, China-Japan. Look at a really interesting match now. This one should be cool. China is typically known as a gimmick team, and Japan is typically known as a mechanics team, but that's not necessarily how it works. You can see China actually is better than Japan on aim, and that's not a fluke. Like, China has historically had really good aim teams in basically every World Cup. Also, hey, Gibby. Morning. Well, good evening. They've historically had pretty good aim teams in basically every World Cup. Interesting to see Mid-C on the roster for this one instead of David. But this was their better run, so nicely done. Nomad 2, I mean, this is why you put these subs on the roster, right? Like, this is why you have these other people on the roster to come in and do stuff like this. Obviously, Milk Tea FCing, Survivor FCing is huge for this team. Huge. 4th best run overall on the map. And that does include duplicate runs. I don't know if they're number 4 on the map overall. They are. That was the 4th best run and 4th best team performance overall on the map for Nomad 2. Really good score from China. And then it's actually Japan who was better on Nomad 3 and Nomad 4. Like, that is the really interesting thing about this matchup is I think a lot of people are going to think, oh yeah, China good at gimmick, good at tech, good at ult, Japan good at mechanics, good at aim, good at speed. But that's not really how it works. Like, there's more nuance to this. They're incredibly closely matched on ult from the qualifier runs. Both of their runs are within 10k and within 25k respectively. Like, run 1 within 25k for both of them, run 2 within 10k for both of them. Really, really cool there. Nomad 4 is a little bit more one-sided, right? You've got both China runs below both Japan runs. And of course the Nomad 2 runs, right? If Japan high rolls and China low rolls, there is a chance that Japan wins it. But generally speaking, Japan has a far better chance of low rolling than China does on a map like the Nomad 2 from last weekend. China hidden? Huh, China hidden 1. Okay. Interesting. wasn't really expecting that, actually. Although Japan hidden is not like a particularly good thing. They clearly have a lot of players who struggle with this kind of stuff. Vervalion with 120k is iffy at best. And then, of course, contested hidden 2. Again, it's the ability for China to high roll and the ability for Japan to low roll. Actually, or high roll. Just the ability for China to high roll is enough to win, but China does have a pretty big chance of low rolling the hidden 2 also. Both Hard Rock runs on Hard Rock 1 better for China than Japan. That said, run, the middle 2 runs are very, very close. And of course, again, there is a chance for China to high roll on precision, but there's also a chance for them to low roll. And Japan is incredibly consistent on this precision Hard Rock. And then Japan's speed is actually real. Like, that's just a thing. Japan's very good at speed. Vervalion's always been very good at DT. And that is still going to hold here. That said, China's a little bit better on aim DT and gimmick DT than they are on just speed. So, kind of an interesting overall matchup. You've got this weird dynamic where, like, China's pretty good at the aim picks in general, and good at Hard Rock consistency. Not necessarily good at Hard Rock precision and low aim, though, which is what this Hard Rock 2 is. Hard Rock 1 is just aim consistency, but there's also a flow aim component to it. So that is a little bit Japan favored on the Hard Rock 1. Hidden 1 is below approach rate reading map, and that is also a like flow aim and gimmick map. I don't know who that's going to favor more. I think it's going to make a roll pan carry more likely, is what I think. Like, David clearly had a very good run on this run for China, and that's kind of the deciding factor, right? You've got, like, slightly better. This one's slightly worse, and Milk Tea didn't play this one. Instead, them putting in Z numbers. So you just get a better run this time around. That said, like, this is the exact same roster twice that they ran with, and they were incredibly consistent both times, with Rollpan doing very well both times. Rollpan is just really good at low AR hidden. It's really not. Like, the style is completely different, you're right, but it's still low AR. That's kind of the only point of comparison that we have here, right? Neither of the low AR picks in this pool are comparable to the qualifiers hidden 2 in terms of mapping style. The only thing we have to go off, though, is the metadata. That's why I'm talking about Rollpan from other tournaments, because Rollpan can read easy. And if you can read easy, you're probably going to be a lot better versed at something that's more complex in terms of rhythm and patterning than people who just play low AR for tournament, right? So I'm thinking it's a Japan angle on the low AR hidden. But on something like the hidden 2, I definitely favor China more overall. Not just because of these scores, although that does help, right? Because the hidden 1 here is flow aim hidden. But because this is an aim map, and we've already seen that China's really good at aim consistency. So I don't think they'll have too much trouble with it. And they were better on the non-low approach rate hidden. So if I'm... and then, of course, Japan tech. Japan alt, probably. Although this is just a complete toss-up, no? Like, this is just a complete toss-up. The one thing that's interesting about this No Mod 3 pick is that it's really reading based, kind of balanced out by the 3 Mod 3 in this pool being more like alt mechanics based. I think they're still both probably going to be a bit of a toss up, right? The one thing that is interesting though is that Rollpan's not playing this alt map for Japan, right? Whereas this is like the stock standard roster for Team China, mid-C actually, going in for their better run over Kurumi? Not mid, didn't make much of a difference. Didn't make much of a difference though. So speed aim is obviously still something that China can play. And with the sort of density that this has, I probably give this to China still. This is a Japan map. This is a toss-up. This is a Japan map. This is a Japan map. This is a China map. I've got 3 Japan, 2 China right now. China map. Toss-up, more likely. Japan. We'll call it 1 China, 1 Japan. 1 more Japan map as of right now. This is a complete toss-up. This is also probably a toss-up. It is not high enough BPM to skill cap the China players, I think. It's pretty free low for Japan, though, so definitely Japan leaning. This is a Japan map. This is a China map. This is probably a China map. They can take Hard Rock. And this is, again, a toss-up. I think this is just going to be really close. I think it's ever so slightly Japan favored on, like, the main pool. But I don't think it's favored to them enough that they can block China out of good picks. And so I think it's probably going to be close. I'm going to pick China in tiebreaker. I think if it goes to tiebreaker, if it is close and it is back and forth, I think it goes to tiebreaker. I think it's a bad matchup for China, 1. But 2, I think it's just going to be extremely close between the 2 of them with how their skill sets match up. And I think tiebreaker is going to be a high likelihood, pretty high probability of tiebreaker in this matchup. See how it goes. Okay, Turkey versus United Kingdom. So, UK versus Turkey. Don't expect this to be as close. They have some good carry players for Turkey, Raikaho obviously among them. But the vast majority of Turkey runs are going to be lower than the vast majority of UK runs. UK obviously performing extremely well on both of the hiddens. Is a force to be reckoned with there. But you can start to see some Turkey runs beating out some UK runs. Generally, though, I think a ban will take care of something like the Nomad 4, for example, which is probably going to be the ban for UK. Nomad 4 this week is similar to the Nomad 4 in qualifiers, and it's the only qualifiers map on which Turkey scored higher than both UK runs. So I would have to think that they just banned that out. Interesting to see if Easy Champ played maps. He did play both of the hiddens. Actually, bottom scored on their hidden 1 run that counted, which is interesting. But he did top score the low AR map both times. He also played Nomads. Nomad 3, Nomad 2. And he played Nomad 1 once. Okay. Not that the swap mattered on their second run, but he only played it once. Yeah, I think it's probably just a Nomad 4 ban from the UK, and either a hidden, probably a hidden 1 ban from Turkey. They don't really want to deal with this, right? And then from there, I think it's, what the hell? From there, I think it's just UK winning most maps with like a little variance on the Hard Rock and DT pool, for example, being good picks for Turkey and letting them maybe sneak in a point or 2. Go with 5-1. Okay. Maybe 5-2. 5-1 or 5-2 seems about right. All 5-1 with the ban. Indonesia versus Ukraine. I think this is going to be a surprisingly good matchup despite what that's. Indonesia obviously placing number 9 in qualifiers, and Ukraine placing number 24. So, as with some of the previous matchups that we've seen, wow, actually one Ukraine score ahead of both Indonesia scores here. But some variance, right? You see some Ukraine scores in second in some of these maps. and won with both second and third. So definitely a lot of variance there for the Indonesia squad. And Ukraine is really good at forcing matches in early stage to be closer than they should be, right? Dench, Net Why Not Roman, Other Roman, Magnata Gamer, OQ, like all of these players are actually really, really good in rank restricted. And then, of course, RAF GPO exists for some of the more mechanics-based picks, like one there. Actually, I'm curious to see like how many maps did RAF GPO play? He only played 3 maps. That's really interesting. Why did he only play 3 maps? He was the GOAT last year. Interesting there. So what happened? For 300, really? Yeah, okay. Roman. Net Why Not, the player of all time for Ukraine. I just have a gut feeling that this matchup is going to be closer than what the stats say. Like, I know this looks really Indonesia favored on paper, but my gut is telling me, based on last year, not to discount Ukraine's potential to make this closer. And further, I think if it goes to TB, there's a pretty good chance that Ukraine wins, because they've all played this map before in rank restricted tournaments. I'm still going to give it to Indonesia, but I'm going to give it like 5-2 or 5-3. Call it 5-3. Like, I think this is going to be closer than what the matchup says. And I don't want to discount Indonesia because they had a really, really good qualifiers run. Like, they're seed 9 for a reason, right? They're very good. But a lot of their players, and specifically their players who are popping off on a lot of these maps, are skill cap players. And there is variance, right? There is variance in these scores. Not on every map, right? Not on every map, but still to some extent, there's variance in the scores for Indonesia. And especially on stuff like Nomad 4, when you have a 1 million plus team score variance between runs, like that is a huge flop on your second run. More consistent early stage teams can take advantage of that, right? The consistency on this kind of map from Ukraine should be very scary to Indonesia if they low roll on a Nomad 4. So, yeah, I think this is going to be closer than what just a quick glance at the sheet would otherwise tell you based on Ukraine's performance last year and some of the variance that you can see in the Indonesia scores. Like, look at that 800k variance on Hard Rock 2. Okay, to be fair, it is Hard Rock 2, right? It's CS 6.5. Like, let's not go crazy here. That's a map with pretty high variance. But I think there is still a point to talking about it. And to boot, Ukraine has speed over Indonesia, which is not something I was going to say, or not something I expected to say. But when Lifeline is bottom scoring on the speed map, I think that's a bad sign for Indonesia. Like, you should not have number 3 global bottom scoring on speed maps in speed meta. Very odd. Obviously, he had very good runs on the DT3, though. But there's not really a comparable map in the round of 32 this week, right? The round of 32 pool does not have a similar high approach rate reading-based gimmick DT3. It's just a speed map. So it doesn't really help too much, right? There's speed Nomad 2, speed DT2, speed DT3, high BPM aim Nomad 1, hybrid speed aim DT1. Like, this is very good for a team in Ukraine that was able to match or do better than Indonesia on speed. I think this pool is really good for Ukraine, and I think there's variance to the scores from Indonesia from qualifiers. So I think this should be a closer match than it looks like just looking at the seeding. In fact, I would go so far as to say that if it goes to tiebreaker, I think Ukraine probably wins just because they're going to be more comfortable on it. I still think Indonesia's going to win. Like, I don't think they're going to lose. I think they are better. I think they're still the better team. But I think it's going to be close. Like, Indonesia had some really good scores, right? DC won 3.8 million. It's still very good. 14th best run on Hard Rock 2, 11th best run on Hard Rock 1. Like, the Hard Rock comfort for these players is really high. Obviously, they had very good runs on the low AR hidden compared to Ukraine, who has never really been good at that skill set. Even considering this kind of variance, their average team score on this is still above the best score for Ukraine on the map. So, pretty good. And then, obviously, even with the variance here, even though this is really scary, right? Like, those 3 scores in a vacuum are really scary. The pop-off potential is still there, obviously. They could always pop off. So because Indonesia is a team that showed some variance, and because Ukraine is a team that's good at early stage, obviously they're not losing to Nomad 3. Okay. There's 2 alt maps in the pool, so they can't ban them both. Pick one of them. But I think this is a matchup where it could be 5-0, it could be tiebreaker. I think it's going to depend a lot on how both of these teams are playing on the day, because there was variance in the scores for Team Indonesia. Like pretty high overall variance in their different runs, to the point where even something like this exists. But they still have the skill cap to absolutely crush Ukraine on everything. That said, if Ukraine is consistent and doing well on the day, they could also easily bring it to tiebreaker. So, I don't know. I don't know how that match is going to go. I think it's going to be interesting to look out for. Netherlands versus Russia. Should be Russia versus Netherlands. Okay. It's just alphabetical, right? Yeah, it's just alphabetical, it looks like. Okay. Russia versus Netherlands. I don't think this one's going to be... I can't look at the flags for this. I have to look at team name length. They're the same colors, just swapped around. What is this? What are European flags, man? Why are they all just bars of color? They're just the same fucking flag, bro. I hate European flags. They're all the same. European flags are actually so low tier. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Europe. All of your flags look the same. It's not the same colors. It's blue. It's red, white, and blue. Red, white, and blue horizontal stripes. Okay, Wales flag is awesome. Wales flag is cool. Wales flag is good. You're right. You're right. Anyway, Russia beat Netherlands' best run on every single map. Yeah, every single map. Every single map, Russia has a better run than Netherlands. So I don't really think this is going to be all that much of a match. Nomad 3, Netherlands beat Russia's worst run.
To the dark side.
Yeah, that was it. Wow, that is fucking convincing. There was a single map where Netherlands' best run was better than Russia's worst. And it was Nomad 3. Good night, T-Light. That's the only map was Nomad 3. Every other map, it's both of Russia's runs were better than both of Ukraine's runs. Or, sorry, Netherlands' runs. Back on the last map. Is that Manivot? Hey. It's not looking good, bro. I'm sorry. Based on the qualifiers, it's looking pretty doomed. Nomad 3 is the single map where you performed better than either of Russia's runs. That's the only one. I hate to break it to you. That's the only one. Now that said, there's 2 alt maps. There's 2 alt maps in this pool. So don't lose all hope. There's 2 alt maps and free mod 1 is flowing. So, you know, by that logic, 2 points. Already doable. Now you just have to practice the fuck out of something that Russia was bad at. Wait, that's actually such a doomed qualifiers. What the fuck? Okay, that info does change things. That said, I don't know what those players play for you, so that doesn't really help me in predicting the next matchup too much. What is Russia bad at? Nomad 1. Okay, what is Russia bad at, and where is their high variance? Let's call high variance above 500k. Nomad 1. Above 500k adjusted for mod multiplier. Nomad 3, obviously. We already talked about that. This is not quite 500k, and their scores were still both pretty good overall. This is not quite 500k, and their scores are both pretty good overall. This is not high variance whatsoever, but the scores were pretty close actually on low AR reading. I think if Netherlands practices the low AR reading picks a little bit more, and they have some support for LeBron, then they can probably win some of the, like one of the 2 low AR maps, either the hidden or the free mud. But LeBron needs some help on that low AR hidden. Yeah, true. If you 4-way everything, it's pretty obvious sweep. Look at HR1. Holy shit, LeBron. Wait. Luciano. Wait, Luciano? Wait, I'm sorry? What the fuck is that? I thought this was Lily for a second. I was like, wait, what the fuck is that? How do you do that bad on run 2? It's on run 2? What happened to his warm-up? What happened to the warm-up? I thought this was gonna be run 1. Like, oh yeah, you know, going from 237k to 1 million. Yeah, that's great improvement. No, that's fucking run 2. Like, wait, what? Dick debuff, I guess. I think he stopped playing. Oh god. All right. Well, definitely some potential for this to go better. That's for sure. And this is some pretty high variance. So if you get a better run on the Hard Rock 1 this week, then there's potential there. That said, Hard Rock 1 this week is not at all similar to Hard Rock 1 last week, right? Like, this is a very different Hard Rock 1 from Row. That's for sure. And the Hard Rock 2, yeah, not great. You're not winning DT against Russia. That's just not happening. Russia is still and has always been one of the best teams. So I think it's about the Hard Rock improvement and the low AR grind for Netherlands. If you do that, I think there's potential to take some fun. As it stands, though, I give you one of the alt map, just based on the qualifiers. But because Russia's also really motivated, right? The other thing, it's gonna be very tough for Netherlands to win that matchup. Okay. Yeah, I think Russia bans one of the alts. Netherlands obviously is banning speed, but I don't think it matters too. And Russia is generally the better team, so can still win even good picks for the Netherlands. Finland versus Hong Kong. This should be a really interesting matchup. It's going to be pretty cool. It'd be Hong Kong versus Finland, if I'm remembering right. Yes. I don't know why HoloWatcher does it alphabetical. Really confusing sometimes. Okay, Hong Kong versus Finland. Balls HR1 was a banger, I agree. There's still 100 people watching me do picks. That's actually wild. OWC really hits different, I guess. Okay. Yeah, Hong Kong. Pretty good team. Very good no-mod team. They beat Finland on all 4 of the no-mods. Granted, some of them are very close, right? Like, this is an extremely close score. There's variance here enough for both of Finland's scores to be in the middle. There's variance enough here for Finland to win on a high roll, very high roll for them. And same thing for no-mod 4, right? But Hong Kong's generally going to be better at attack alt. That's always how they've been. And Hong Kong actually really good at, like, hidden gimmick. That doesn't really exist in this pool, though. Kalanlu is on Team Finland. And so Hong Kong doesn't necessarily have a huge advantage on low AR reading. I'm surprised to not see Shaduzin for the low AR reading maps. He's gotten pretty good at those. Shaduz, oh, Shaduz. What did he play? Nomad 1, Nomad 3, Nomad 4. Both hard rock. Okay, Shadoo's Precision. Yep. And DT3. Yeah. Again, still high variance though. Like Finland low rolls, and suddenly Hong Kong is better than them at low AR. And I think the fact that Hong Kong was better on this hidden one probably gives them a bit of a leg up, right? You've still got MCY4, Xion, and Hibiki all on this map. And you have Max Barrio who played this. Although Max Barrio obviously not as good at this as they were here. So apparently this style of map is not that great for Max Barrio. Of course, Hibiki is not particularly good at it either, but did play the low AR, right? Got okay scores both times. I don't know. Yeah, I think this is a toss-up, and I think Finland is going to be much better on just like aim consistency hidden 2, which is what we have this weekend. Clearly, because they did okay on the aim consistency mod, and they have pretty okay scores on, well, not this map, but this wasn't really aim consistency. This was a weird multi-skill hard rock map that isn't really represented this weekend. Unfortunately for Finland, I don't think that matters when it comes to the hard rocks, because Hong Kong aim is pretty good, and obviously their hard rock is really good. So I think Finland's just going to lose both of the hard rocks. And Hong Kong generally can win DT. The pop-off potential for Hong Kong on speed is definitely there. Boy, this is a bad pool for Finland. Holy. Like, this is a real bad pool. Okay. Like, here's what I'm saying. Here's why this is a bad pool for Finland. Hard rocks don't really matter, but like, Hidden 2 is the only map where they outscored Hong Kong on both of Hong Kong's runs, right? With either of their runs. Hidden 2 last weekend was aim, like awkward aim with some overlapping stuff. That's very similar to this AR9 Hidden 2, but this was AR8, not AR9. The AR8 reading map this week is a CS5 low aim, tech heavy rhythm map. So this is exactly what Hong Kong was really good at from qualifiers, right? Higher circle size, tech heavy, low aim based reading hidden map. So that's very bad for Finland. That the one skill set, or I guess metadata check, that they were good at during the qualifiers in the Hidden 2 is now replaced by a Hidden 1 that does similar things to the Hidden 1 they were not good at in comparison to Hong Kong last week. Very bad pool for Finland also, because out of the DT maps, pretty much the worst one was this DT2, right? At least DT1, they had a pretty good score here. But DT2, I mean, even Hong Kong's worst score is barely worse than the best score for Finland. Well, DT3 is comparable to the DT2 from last weekend. DT2 is still just speed at 219 BPM. DT1 is Senya DT, which of course is more comparable to something like this than it is to something like Joyless. It's kind of a hybrid between the two, which, you know, still makes you favor Hong Kong. And then Nomad 2 this week is also a speed map. So you're just getting a bunch of speed maps that are more similar to this DT2 than they are to either of the other DT picks, where Finland might have had a better chance, honestly speaking, at creating an upset pick. So I think this is just not the pool for Finland. Yeah, really just not a great pool for them. At least not based on the qualifier results. That said, Pam Aesthetic Freeze Nev. Is there any replacement for Nev they can put in? Like, one of the big reason that they didn't have a good run on these is because Nev just really struggled, right? Like, you bump this up to 500-600K, and suddenly you've got, you know, 2.5 mil, very close to this. You bump this up to 600-700K with the rest of them, and suddenly you've got, you know, 2.8, 2.9, 3 mil. Looks a lot better for Finland. So I think it depends also on Nev's comfort level on some of these speed picks, right? Like, on paper, because of how DT2 went, it doesn't look as good for Finland on, like, DT3, Nomad 2, DT2, DT1 in that order. But if Ned is more comfortable with the BPMs on stuff like DT2, DT1, Nomad 2, they can just ban out DT3. And Hong Kong can't really abuse that anymore. That said, I don't think they're banning out DT3. I think they're probably banning out like Nomad 3 or Nomad 4. Hong Kong's always really good at those skill sets. And there's kind of a gap on some stuff like the, you know, the Nomad 4 right here. Pretty big gap. Gap on the top runs and gap on the bottom runs. So, probably don't want to play that. I think Nev will probably be more comfortable on this kind of stuff. Lower BPM, lower star rating. I think it makes sense to be a little bit more forgiving of how Nev did in the qualifiers for Finland. It doesn't mean that Hong Kong players won't get better, but I do think it means that Finland's roster probably improves by more, right? Because if you're getting skill capped, getting unskill capped creates a huge score boost. But if you're like not quite skill capped, just making the map easier doesn't really increase your score by that much. So I think it's easier for Finland to win those picks than it is for Hong Kong on this pool, in comparison to how easy it was in qualifiers for Hong Kong to win. That said, it's really hard to give Finland like a particular skill set that they want to pick into Hong Kong. They're not picking the Hard Rocks. Their general skill set is kind of a toss-up. They're not picking Alt or Tech. They're not going to pick these either because of that. They might pick the Hidden 1 just because it's the aim consistency, AR9 hidden, but even then, like, stuff like that in Hong Kong is really rough. But it makes more sense for this roster. I feel like they're almost plotted into picking like quote-unquote RNG mechanics maps like Nomad 1 Hidden 2, Premod 1 against this Hong Kong roster and hoping it works out. And that might end up including stuff like DT1, DT2. I give them it like 50% of the time on those maps. I'm gonna say like 5. I think mostly because I think this is just a bad pool for Finland. Like, I just don't think this is a pool for Finland. Hello, Black Cat. Thanks for the follows, also. Okay. To the next matchup, which is Philippines versus Mexico. This is probably 5-0. Philippines 8 during the qualifiers. They just fucking destroyed it. Let's see. Did Mexico outscore Philippines on a single run on a single map? It's always kind of my litmus test for how close these maps can be. Oh, Hard Rock 2. Okay. Yeah, one map. One map. It was just Hard Rock 2. Every other map in the qualifiers was both of Philippines' runs better than both of Mexico's. So, and even then, like, so much variance for the Mexican roster on the Hard Rock 2. Way more likely that Philippines just wins every map. Were there any where they were generally particularly close without much variance between them? And like on paper, the Philippines roster is also just way better. So I'm not particularly inclined to believe that those sorts of maps exist. A lot of variance on Nomad 2 for Philippines. Not really. Yeah, no, that's a 5-0. Sorry, Mexico. Mexico gaps. Mexico gaps. All right, Romania, Singapore. I think this is going to be a good one. on paper, Romania clears the nomads. But you also have some pretty close maps in general. Like this nomad 2, if Romania low rolls, there's definitely potential for Singapore to win. Same for the nomad 1, right? These are all pretty close scores in general, excluding the outlier pop-off from Romania, right? They had a really good run 2 on this one, and a really good run 1 on this one. Obviously, the Nomad 3 is very Romania favored. They have Badu, very good ult player. He double S the Nomad 3 in qualifiers. Pretty good. Same for tech, right? They have a pretty good tech roster here. But the tech roster for Singapore is not to be teased at. This is a pretty good roster. That said, lots of variance in the overall performance for the roster also, right? Like, everybody improving effectively between runs. Tebi going from 675k over 200k up, and Demonical going from 593k almost 400k better in the second run. Like that's a lot of variance. Romania is really good at hidden, and Singapore, unfortunately, didn't have a great run on hidden 1. But Badu did not FC both times for Romania on the hidden 2. So these are relatively close scores, yes, but Singapore is generally the more consistent team on the low AR pick. That said, I'm wondering again how much the change in style and the swap in style of the basically what happened is in round of 32 they made hidden 1 AR8 and hidden 2 AR9. When in qualifiers this was AR 9.4 and this was AR8. So the swap in style is really different for both of these picks, right? And so you get kind of this test where, okay, if both of these teams are completely flip-flopped on both of these maps, how does that impact how they're going to do on the next round's hidden picks? I think what it means is that the team who was overall more consistent with generally better scores on both of the hidden maps is probably going to do better. And from what I can see, that's Romania. They have a really good hidden carry in Badu, and the ability for other players like Raze to pop off on some of the hiddens when needed. Same for Lucrece, right? Went from bottom score on run 2 to second best score on run 1. And they were more consistent both times on a map which was pretty infamously regarded as RNG during the qualifiers. So, got a lot for them. Hard Rocks 1 was close with one of these runs, but way more consistently good from Romania. And obviously the Hard Rock 2 is just Romania gapping. Romania did not even bother playing DT1 a second time because they 4-way full comboed it their first run. So, pretty good score. I think I give them DT1 99 times out of 100. The other DTs, however, not so much, right? This is pretty high variance. And Singapore definitely has the potential to win it. So, what I'm seeing here is that comfort on high approach rate is better for Singapore, and comfort on speed is pretty evenly matched. Whereas comfort on Hard Rock and Hidden is slightly higher for Romania, and comfort on Nomad overall is better for Romania. So, if I'm looking at the pool, Romania, probably Romania, but it could go Singapore's way. Romania, probably Romania, and probably Romania. I think Singapore is just the speed team this one. But I do think there's potential for Singapore to take the Hidden 2. And maybe the Free Mod 2 and Hidden 1 if they play their cards right. But even then, that's 5 picks for Romania, and there's still potential for breakpoints on all of these. So I generally give this match to Romania pretty one-sidedly, though I think that Singapore can win some speed picks. So I'm going to go either 5-2 or 5-3 on this for Romania. Probably 5-2. They generally perform better than their qualifier results would indicate in OWC. So, Romania. Okay. On to the next matchup is Poland versus Argentina. Again, why is Argentina first? Why are you sorting by alphabetical in a tournament with seeding? Poland versus Argentina. Just for the sake of looking at the results. Let's look at this. And I'm sorry for your loss, Argentina. It's not even close, right? Like, not even close? Not even close. Holy fuck, it's not. Hard Rocks. Holy shit, the hidden is a slaughter. Okay. 500k, 1.4 mil difference, 500k difference, 700k different. Yeah, no, like every single map is 500k difference plus in favor of Poland, comparing Poland's worst run to Argentina's best. That is a 5-0 slaughter. Even if Poland shows up with half the team and the 4 that are there are drunk, I think they probably still win as long as they've got Malashevsky. Okay, Brazil versus France, which is actually France versus Brazil by seeding. Parisia, hello. I think I already looked at Korea's match.
Peresi_OSU raided my stream with 24
Did I? Yes,
views.
I did. That was the first one I looked at. Hello, I hope your stream was good. Thank you for the raid. Much appreciated. Everyone died, only me left. Oh boy. Game is going to be good. Yeah, I think so. France versus Brazil should be pretty good. It's a middle seed matchup, so it should be close, right? Wow, that is some team score variance if I've ever seen it. Jesus. And that's some consistency. What is France doing? Okay. France is a hidden team. What the fuck? France on the outside on this one, and Brazil on the outside on this one. That's funny. Oh, and then it swaps again on DT1. France on the outside again. Okay, now we're back to some other stuff. Okay. I feel like they are gimmick and reading team, except they beat Brazil on the DT1 on their best run. They beat Brazil on DT2 on their best run. And comparing their worst runs, they beat Brazil too. And on the gimmick DT, they actually lost both times to both of Brazil's scores. Obviously, they're a really good hidden and reading team. Like, Brazil's never beating them on that. But Brazil's better at tech. Brazil's generally better at alt. And France is pretty evenly matched when it comes to stream stamina. Not that that matters all that much. And France is better at aim consistency. You know why? Mbappe. That's a tick. I don't know. I think this match is very like the Nomad one is not too comparable to how Serenade went. And it's also not really comparable to DT1 either. But both of those were kind of like toss-ups for both teams generally. So I think Nomad 1 is probably a toss-up. Nomad 2 is just straight speed, which is also kind of a toss-up here. France has better... Well, no. It's a toss-up on speed, stream stamina, and it's a toss-up on speed stamina, generally. Although France has the edge overall on speed, so I'll probably give this to France. I just did 80 misses on our best Nomad 2 run and FC'd on our worst run. Skill cap. Let's go. It's, you know, sometimes that's just how this game works, right? Like, that's just how it is. Oh yeah, I see 92% AC on the best run and 98 AC FC on the worst run. You know what? That's called team consistency, not player consistency. Team consistency. You made up for the fact that everyone else flopped. Good. Good. The only point of comparison for alt is this Nomad 3, which Brazil did pretty well on. I give that to Brazil. I also give tech to Brazil generally. There is also this other alt map down here, which is probably Brazil favored. There's no other tech maps, though. I guess the Hard Rock 2, but that's more indicative of precision, skills, and tech. Definitely giving both hiddens to France. And the Hard Rocks are both a toss-up, so I'm not going to bother commenting. Like, these are both incredibly close. Although France has the higher average score on Hard Rock 2. And Brazil has the much higher average score on Hard Rock 1. Not that the Hard Rock 1 last week is comparable to the Hard Rock 1 this week. Or that the Hard Rock 2 this week is comparable to last week's either. It's probably not. Koro PC died during second run. He had no sound mid-map, and after that it crashed. That's pretty rough. Yeah, that sucks. I mean, there's always something like that happens, right? That's just how the game goes sometimes. And if you aren't live streaming, then El Bozo plus ratio. Oh, yeah, with both teams pretty evenly matched on precision, and France being the better reading team, I'd probably give this to France. And now, DT hits. And France says, "Hello, I would like all of your best speed maps, please." And yeah, I do think DT3 is a toss-up just because it's high approach rate though. So yeah, I'm gonna give this to France. I think the matchup is pretty good for them when you expand this to full-size pools. I think Nomad 2 being speed is really good for them, and the change in overall format for the DT pool is really good for them. Let's say like 5-2-5-3. There's variants, so I'm gonna put 5-3 because I think Brazil is good, especially on early stage pools. I think they're better than they usually are, but I think it's still a France win. Could be a tiebreaker match because Brazil is good enough to take breakpoints on stuff like DT1, DT2 in particular. Like, I think those are very RNG picks for France. Same for the free mod too. Need one hidden player. Yeah, that's cool, but what's your opinion on G2 getting a free win against NRG to quarterfinal? Are we talking about League of Legends or are we talking about another game? Because both of those teams are playing League Worlds right now. But I always feel like I have to ask when it comes to esports because people always shit on League of Legends. Yes, I love League. Okay. I don't know. NA should get better. Like, what is there to discuss? NA sucks. Like, NA should get better. Okay, Australia versus Taiwan. If any were actually good, then we wouldn't be the free win region. Not much to talk about there. Lucky for G2 to pull one of the worst teams in the tournament. I mean, EU is pretty bad, but G2 internationally, most of the time. Most of the time, not always. Okay, Australia. Wow, that's some fucking variance right there. 700k? Jesus. Yo, what happened? What happened to the team? Why did Secret Box and Dummy... Why is Dummy dropping the 400k on Nomad 2? What happened to Secret Box on this run? What happened to MREC on this run? Bro dropped 600k. Oh, he missed in the middle. Oh, he missed in the middle. Oh. Well, that's pretty sad, actually. That's actually really sad. That's actually so unlucky. Okay, never mind. I understand what happened now. This is just like way higher average score, and they're obviously still pretty comfortable on the map versus Riser 94% accuracy. They are getting fourth player syndrome here. And lower difficulty in round of 32 means it's probably going to be an easy win for Australia on that sort of map. They're very obviously better on tech And oh my fucking gappage. Holy. Look at that. Holy. Okay. Definitely better hidden. Definitely the better hidden team. Also, definitely the better Hard Rock team. 700k gap. 1.3 mil team score gap between worst and best. Holy fuck. That's actually insane. Look at this fucking run, dude. What is that? What is that? What is this score? Double S and then everyone else has 99.83. What the fuck? That's actually absurd. Holy shit. Yeah, Australia DT is pretty good. Okay, I don't think this is super controversial, but I think Australia probably 5-0s. I think there's variance to be had on harder maps, and the only real chance that Taiwan has is to try an RNG on like Nomad 1, Hidden 2, Hard Rock 1, etc. Yeah, I did see that. Yeah, I like that MREC showed up for qualifiers this year. That was pretty cool. Yeah, I think Taiwan is forced to like try an RNG a pick. Otherwise, I think it's going to be really one-sided in favor of Australia. Chile versus Sweden. I don't think there's too much to discuss in that matchup, honestly. The last one, not this one. I think this one's more interesting. Remod 2 Australia would fall asleep. Unlucky. Simply stay awake longer. Yo, Chile, Sweden number 5? That's actually a 6-4. Great run. Yeah, there's more to discuss here. Chile's still the better team, though. Like, generally better and more consistent on the hard. Well, not more consistent, but generally better on the Hard Rocks. These two runs are really consistent, of course. But like, even Reedcat is underperforming Skilla. Like, this is not the Sweden of old with Reedcat and Andros at their prime. This is newer Sweden that is mostly being led by Skilla, honestly, despite the memes about Nomad 2. And even the low rows for Chile are still competitive with both of Sweden's scores on Hard Rock. Chile is very obviously the better hidden team, and pretty obviously the better tech team, obviously the better alt team, pretty obviously the better stream stamina team by like a wide margin. Aim consistency, though. Too bad Nomad 1 is 240 BPM and unplayable. That map's really hard, actually. Like, for me at least. Like, I don't know. I'm BPM gapped, so it's really hard for me. I think it's probably balanced overall in the pool. But for me as a player, it's really hard because I fucking suck at high BPM. Skilla 76 AC? Yeah. Yeah. It was a bit rough. It was a bit rough. Not that, you know, 3-man 400k is doing much against Team Chile. Right? Like, not that the 3-man 400k is actually doing anything against this team. But, yeah, 89 AC, 76% is pretty rough. I don't know. I mean, aim consistency is good for Sweden. That's kind of all they have, though, no? Like, maybe they're winning the Hard Rock 1 on aim consistency also? But it's still winnable for Chile, and they're not banning that Hard Rock 1. They're banning either the Nomad 1 or the DT 1, whatever they don't really want to play against the Sweden team, because those are the only maps where Sweden got a better score than them on anything. And I give most of the rest of the pool to Sweden anyway, so I'm going to give it like 5-1 to Chile. I think really the only skill set that Sweden has, looking at the qualifiers over Chile, is aim consistency. And honestly, that largely matches up with how I think about Chile in my mind. Very good Hard Rock gimmick team with players like Matthew and Intercamming both being really good at it. You're not actually popping off on And then obviously TFGE, Suntan, Gonza, number 37, like half the roster is all really good hidden players, and you can throw intercamping in there for good measure, and you're going to get a good hidden roster one way or another, right? So it's all the subs that are really good for Chile and that help bring them higher on some of these other maps, right? Like Suntan and Gonza are the fill-ins on DT, not TFGE, not number 37, right? Like the lower ranked players do really well on the speed stuff. So, yeah, no, for Chile, I think it's just all about not getting RNG'd on the aim picks, and they'll probably do pretty well. Even then, the hidden aim is, you know, AR9 6.2 stars, so I doubt they're going to get RNG. Okay, on to Italy, New Zealand. You remember the full circle prediction stream? I'm an Italy believer. I think Italy's a pretty good team, but New Zealand surprised in qualifiers. They had a really good run. 5th best run in the tournament on Nomad 2. Stream stamina stream stamina son or aim consistency daughter? Which would you rather have? Which would you rather have? My God, those are actually both really good pop-off team scores for both of the teams. Like polar opposite skill sets. Italy is obviously the way better gimmick team, right? Like very good alt tech players. New Zealand hidden? Really? I didn't know New Zealand was a hidden team. Damn. Okay. All right. Actually, Italy is just kind of sucking ass at least. It's like, I don't know, 1.2 million average is really bad on both of these maps. I'm sorry, Italy. Or 1.3 mil average. That doesn't matter. Those are just not good scores. This is just really high variance right here. Yeah. Number 40 versus number 3. Both of these teams are high variance on the Hard Rock. Pretty evenly matched overall. Like, this is within 30k, and this is within 15k. This is 250k apart, and this is about 250k apart again. Italy, the DT aim team, though. New Zealand, the speed team, and by a pretty wide margin. I mean, that's, you know, 500k plus. And then Italy, generally the better DT team, it seems like, but that's more like a high AR reading gimmick map, almost. Very, very tricky map. So to summarize what happens here, Italy is better at aim and gimmick in Nomad. The teams are generally evenly matched on Hard Rock, with New Zealand having an edge on the hidden pool, but not by a ton. Italy still has the potential to upset. On hidden 2, I think. Italy has the potential to upset on hidden 2. And actually has a higher, look at that, actually higher average score for Italy. Some 3.375, some 3.275. So 50k higher average score for Italy on the Italy on the hidden 2 here. So slight edge to Italy on low AR awkward aim, which is a good descriptor for what hidden 2 is this week. So generally better aim team, generally better tech gimmick team, but really not good at like alt low aim tech hybrid stuff in hidden. Very poor scores in that area. They don't have a roster for this. Like 236k for BGM and 160k for Julio. Shadow Modico, Kurochi, Chihuahua are just not the hidden players. Like none of these. This is their core, right? Is Shadow Modico, Kurochi, and Arch in no particular order. That's the core. These players are not hidden players. So gamer hidden maps they tend to be really good at. Complex hidden maps they tend to be pretty bad at. I think they might even ban the hidden 2 or the hidden 1 this weekend and just leave up the hidden 2 as a potential, you know, flex breakpoint pick. Teams are pretty evenly matched in Hard Rock. Not too much to say about those. And Italy is generally the better DT team with both high BPM aim and higher approach rate being better for them, but speed being way better for New Zealand by like a pretty wide margin. So New Zealand is a tapping team. Let's see. Italy picks. Number 1, number 3, number 4. Hidden 2 is a toss-up, but ever so slightly Italy favored. Call it like that. Hard Rocks are just toss-ups. I'm not even going to bother picking them for either side. I don't think Italy necessarily picks the DT1, but it is a good map for them. And I don't think they necessarily pick DT2 or DT3 either. I think those are mostly toss-ups. Fremod 1 is not an Italy pick. Fremod 2 is an Italy pick. Easier for New Zealand to win, though, because they only need 1 hidden. And Fremod 3 is definitely an Italy pick. Whereas this is a New Zealand pick. These are also New Zealand picks. This one is really good for them. And this is a New Zealand pick. And this is a New Zealand pick. They both got 4, like, really good maps. I don't know, this is close. I think it's ever so slightly Italy favored. I think if it goes to tiebreaker, Italy's going to win. But I think there's potential there for it to go to tiebreaker. I'm thinking like 5-3 or 5-4 Italy. I'm going to go 5-4. I think this is a really, really close match. I think they both have lots of very good picks. And I think there's more quote-unquote slightly favored picks for Italy. Broke my 3-year streak. No! Okay. Italy should pick DT1. What do you think are the bans? Nomad or Fremod 1 ban from Italy, and Hard Rock 1 ban from. Actually, not Hard Rock 1. It's probably still Nomad 1 ban for New Zealand, and I don't think that's because this Nomad 1 is comparable to the round of 32 Nomad 1. I think it's because the combination of Italy having the second best DT1 run and the second best Nomad 1 run is really, really scary on anything that your team is not particularly. Probably still a Nomad 1 run. I have 3 pings. Yams, probably? Yes. Yeah, I think Fremod 1 ban for Italy based off the Nomad 2 score qualifiers, and Nomad 1 ban for New Zealand based off New Zealand's Nomad 1 score, Italy's Nomad 1 score, and Italy's DT1. I think those are probably the bans. But I think this is a really close match. I think both teams are really good at different things, and that always leads to overall close matches because teams can pretty confidently and comfortably pick into their own skill set without fear of getting break pointed too often. Okay, Germany versus Spain. Spain's got a good flag. I was ragging on European flags earlier for all being just 3 stripes with 3 different colors. But Spain's got a good flag. They got a good flag. Sorry, Germany, your flag sucks too. Unfortunately for Spain, a good flag does not mean a good run in OWC. You're a tad quiet compared to the music? Okay. What do I do for that, actually? Hold on. I'll just turn up the gain on my mic. There, that should be better. Probably. Should be. A little bit better now. Man still hasn't seen Albanian flag? I have seen Albanian flag. They're not playing in OWC, though. So I don't care about Albanian flag right now. Yeah, it's obviously a win for Germany. I'm just trying to think about how many points Spain can get in this matchup. Not looking like they win a point on anything modded, which honestly checks out. Like, Spain's a really good no-mod team. They always have been. And Tony, the all caps, all spaces gang is really good at no-mod. Not much else. Nomad 2, Nomad 3, it looks like. Damn. Okay, that's actually like pop-off potential for Spain. And on the Nomad 2 too. Going alright. Going alright, Cromasia. Okay, the only bad part about this for Spain is that Nomad 2 this week is most similar to a free mod pick, and Spain's bad at mods. So they don't really want to play free mod. They would rather just stay in the Nomad pool. And the problem for them is that Germany is really fucking good at speed, and Spain is not. So Nomad 2 is out of the question. Germany is much better at speed aim. Granted, this is AR 10.3, but that's an 800,000 score diff between the worst score for Germany and the best score for Spain. And Spain also does not compare to Germany's Nomad 1 score. So, you know, speed, aim, density, Nomad 1, kind of out of the question here. Nomad 4, Germany gapped on both runs by over 500k. So Nomad 4 kind of out of the question here. The only map, honestly, that seems pickable for Spain in this matchup is Nomad 3. Yeah, that's a 5-0. That's a 5-0. I'm sorry, Spain.
Yo _8 rated my stream with 2 viewers.
Yo, Wraith, hey man. How was the stream? Hope you had fun. Hope it was chill. Yeah, sorry, Spain. Alright, last one. Canada versus Norway. Obviously, I gotta root for Canada. I gotta root for Canada. I bought the banner for Canada. I gotta root for them. Norway sweep? No way. Canada sweep. Again, Canada had Zudinator and Xylus playing from TwitchCon with fucking laggy PCs that they weren't actually able to use very well. Yo, 7 months. Thanks, man. Much appreciated. Gah. Stream was chill. Very nice. Yeah, I think this is just like very unlucky matchup for Norway because I don't think this kind of shit is happening on the Nomad 4 in round of 32. Like that kind of shit just ain't happening for Zudi in round of 32 Nomad 4. They're already getting gapped on hidden. Zudi with a laggy PC is still getting 800k. Pretty rough. Pretty rough. Such irony that TwitchCon had bad PCs. That's what I'm saying. How did the TwitchCon PCs be so dog shit for OSU? Unless it was all a psyop and this was actually just like Zudinator and Xylus. Just, I don't know. It can't. It literally can't be. I don't know, man. Like Zudinator is one of the best tourney players in the world right now. That's fucking troll. That's fucking troll. Took a break from my RSI and now I know how to grip my pen. Hey, that's the classic OC break coming in hot. Do you eventually see OWC going for 48 teams qualified instead of 32? That's not how tournament brackets work. I mean, they could, like, how would you make a 48 team bracket work? If you take the... I mean, you could do a group stage with seeds 17 through 48 and then have the top 2 from each group play in a round of 32 bracket afterwards, but that's a long fucking tournament. Groups of 3? Would rather do groups of 6 at that point if you're going to do like a full-size group stage. Anyway, I'm just putting Canada 5-0 because I believe in the team. And, you know, Zudi Xylus TwitchCon means they underperformed by a pretty fucking wide margin. and they still managed to beat Norway both times on every single DT. God bless. And both times on both hiddens. And both times on Nomad 2, Nomad 3. Jesus. I don't like that OSU tourneys don't have groups. They used to have groups. Here's the thing. Group stages are awesome for spectators because you get shit tons of matches. Group stages are hell for players because you have to play shit tons of matches. And there are so many big tournaments with tons of matches in other esports, like League of Legends, for example. You know, there's 2 big tournaments a year, right? There's MSI and Worlds, and that's it. They only get 2 tournaments. So the more matches you get in international play, where you are playing against different teams from other regions, the better. It's better practice for your team in a very complex game itself to play against different sorts of perspectives, right? And different styles of teams. OSU has done groups before. I'm explaining why we don't do it. The flip side in OSU is that there's 8 fucking bajillion tournaments a year. And all of them are international. So you already get tons of international gameplay experience in tournaments against players from other countries and other regions of the world. Because all of our tournaments are online instead of on location. So you don't get the same sorts of benefits as a player from a bigger tournament. Right? You get... Sure, there's more matches in OWC, which is great because it's the biggest tournament in the game and the most anticipated tournament of the game. But it also ends up meaning that player burnout in this game for tournaments is really high because there are so many international tournaments to start with. It's not that I agree or disagree with it, because I think groups are more interesting anyway, and it's almost like tracking a mini tournament, for example, within the overall tournament itself. But that's just how it feels as a player. Like, playing group stages as a player who is at the top of most tournaments means that you have fuck tons of matches every single weekend. And it gets really tiring after a certain point. So at some point, people just didn't want to see group stages anymore from a player perspective. Not that I think that's the right take, but that's how it is for tournament players in the game. Yeah, lowest star rating pool is also something that's really interesting, right? Because that sort of distinction in scaling doesn't really exist in most other games, right? Like, that's a very rhythm game specific problem. Most other games don't have that issue because all of the maps in FPSs, for example, are largely balanced about the same. Meta from week to week in League of Legends tournaments doesn't change. They use the same patch for the entire tournament, right? So it's a very rhythm game specific problem. I'm not sure whether the qualifiers solution would be good for solving that either, because it would create more one-sided matchups in group stage between top and bottom seeds. Maybe that's a good thing. We already see really one-sided matchups in group stages between top and bottom seeds in other esports, right? In FPSs and in MOBAs, we see the best teams like JDG and League of Legends, for example, just absolutely demolish any Western team that comes their way. So I don't know if it's actually a problem. Huh. Yeah, I don't know. It's a thinker for sure. Yeah, I don't know. You go back to like 2018 and pretty much every tournament was using group stages. So about 5 years ago is really when qualifiers started to become the standard, like 2019 mostly. 5 years ago, group stages was complete standard. I believe in the paper candle for Norway. Sorry, I live in Canada. I gotta root for Canada. I'm not on copium here. Yeah, sure. Anyway, if you want to check out the sheet I was using for the comparison stuff, you can click that. That takes you to this sheet right here. If you want to use it for yourself to take a look at the qualifiers with direct comparisons, you can just make a copy of it and it'll work. Why did Easy get forbidden on free mod picks? It's not that Easy is forbidden, it's that Easy has never been allowed. Like, that's just not a thing in OWC.